splash water on my
Hello,
face and
my name is
make
Jack
sure I
Elliott,
don't look
and I'll
like
be
a
relating
total
several
loser.
things I learned about in Miguel Sacart's Beyond Choices, the design of ethical gameplay, to the video game Life is Strange by Square Enix. And a warning, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't played it, sorry. I'll be going over several different topics that are important to the design of an ethical game that Square Enix did or did not incorporate into theirs. These are slow technologies, observation, cognitive friction, wicked problems, and the general moral choice designs of branching trees, aggregate choices, and trolley problems. Cognitive friction is essentially the idea that a game needs to have a good user interface. However, it can also be applied to the ethical design of games. Creating cognitive friction can relay feelings that are otherwise difficult to capture, such as unreliable controls while your character is drunk. It can also create a feeling of confusion or pressure by reducing the visibility of choices a player can make, or that of the choice's outcomes. Life is Strange incorporates ethical cognitive friction constantly. You are clearly shown what choices you are able to make. However, what they will lead to remains unknown to the player, sometimes even a while after the decision was made. This leaves the player anticipating when their decision will come back later in the game. The idea of slow technologies is one aspect of ethical game design that Square Enix incorporates into Life is Strange especially well. Slow technologies is the idea that a game should create pauses, giving the player time to appreciate the task or moment and its meaning. A pause does not necessarily mean inaction on the player's part, but rather a lack of a pressing need to advance. These pauses in a game give the player time to reflect on anything from the character to the environment, and this reflection allows for the player to relate to the game's world, giving it a meaning past being just a game. Sacart advocates that, for ethical gameplay to have meaning, it should be inspired by slow technologies. Life is Strange clearly shows how it is inspired by slow technologies, through the player's ability to pause and look at seemingly inconsequential things. One of the best examples is when you can have Max sit on a swing and reminisce about her childhood with her former best friend, Chloe.
As if I ever could be.
Sacart believes that games should try to create meaning, not only through the player's actions, but also through observation. He is essentially saying that in the design of ethical gameplay, the game should be experienced, not only through action, but also through inaction. One example of this is when you choose to stay hidden after Chloe's dad blames her for smoking. After you make that choice, all you can do is observe Chloe's father yell and hit her. This moment perfectly represents the idea of creating ethical meaning through the player's observations. Creating wicked problems is at the heart of ethical game design. A wicked problem is essentially a poorly defined, one-shot ethical choice that has obscure results prior to the decision being made. Sacart lists 10 characteristics for an optimal wicked problem. There needs to be limited knowledge of outcomes, unpredictable consequences. It needs to be good or bad, not correct or wrong. There needs to be no testing of solutions. The player needs to be locked into a new state after the decision. No optimal solutions. It needs to be unique. It should reveal the moral nature of the game. There should be no single correct decision, and the player has no right to replay it. Life is Strange covers most of these fairly well when it asks players to make decisions. However, it fails in the three that have to do with replaying the decision. While most video games suffer in this aspect because of the ability to reload a save, Life is Strange incorporates the mechanic of rewinding a decision into the game itself. This mechanic makes the game's wicked choices inherently less wicked. However, it does try to combat this by spreading out the consequences of a decision throughout the game. This forces the player to replay a large section of the game if they wish to change a consequence. There are three main ways that choices are designed in ethical gameplay: branching trees, aggregate choices, and trolley problems. Branching trees usually have outcomes that are clearly retraceable to the decision that caused them. Aggregate choices usually involve many choices that are offered frequently and consequences that are not easily traced to a particular choice. Trolley problems involve a superficial choice that will not actually affect the end of the game because all of the decisions made converge to the same place. Sacart argues that the first two are good methods for ethical design, with aggregate choices being the better, and that trolley problems involve merely superficial ethical decisions. I believe that Life is Strange incorporates both aggregate choices and a branching tree design, due to the many small choices that are offered to the player, combined with a few larger ones that are only offered a few times. Thank you all for watching my video on Beyond Choices, the design of ethical gameplay, and I hope you learned something.